Few of us would have expected by this point in time that we would be going through two major events, a pandemic and a recession. Both are life-changing, both require smart, careful decision-making to get us through. But there's an inherent tension. On the one hand, we expect that life post-COVID is going to be more cautious, slower, frustrating, the things that normally would be done easily, taking longer to achieve. And then a recession, an economic downturn that you don't want to be stuck in for too long and where the pressure will be on to emerge and to see growth occur much quicker. If there was a sector that was ideally placed to help out, I would argue that it's the Australian tech sector. Firms large and small. Their whole reason for being is problem solving, using technology to develop solutions to make life easier and to improve the efficiency of businesses. We need to mobilise, engage Australia's tech sector in the national economic recovery effort. We need to bring in place a range of different initiatives or deal with other issues that are holding the sector back as part of a broader plan for a smart restart. These things would deal with the perennial capacity constraint issues of capital and skill, but also set us up for the longer term. The ideas that I'd be putting forward through this video, and it's a bit of a longer video, so please excuse me for that, but there are ideas that have been conveyed through consultations, discussions I've had with people within the sector, ideas that have been advanced out there that you would have seen as well. They're the type of things that we can get to straight away while we develop a longer term plan, a national entrepreneurship pathway that will help encourage the greater emergence of new firms. Because bear in mind, we've had a lot of firms disappear through the last few months and the crisis that we've had to endure. A lot of firms under pressure. We need the green shoots to emerge in the broader business ecosystem to ensure that we're creating jobs and longer term prosperity. So what are some of these ideas? Well, let's start with one. Dr. Adir Schiffman has argued, for instance, that we need to bring forward the R&D tax claims that would have fallen or occurred next year, bring those forward to this year. This will result in a big cash injection to support startups now when they need it most. He's also right in pointing out that the contentious R&D tax changes that are being proposed by the government, we can definitely pause those. There's enough disruption as it is without having to deal with very contentious changes being put forward. Reform, sure, but at a time where it's right to do so. Another area where we can make a difference is supporting programs that have been receiving support within the startup sector. For example, the Accelerating Commercialisation Program, currently 60 mil, could easily be doubled in the short term to 120 mil, and it could target with that additional funding firms that have got ideas or proposals that could make life easier post-COVID. Another area is seed funding. We currently have over 30 accelerators in this country that are supporting startups and smart SMEs. The government could easily extend funding for distribution via those accelerators as seed funds that could support firms that they believe have promise, merit, they've got ideas worth pursuing that could again generate economic activity and also help life post-COVID. And remember, we often overlook the fact that startups have huge job generating capacity. It's often been the case, and I've seen with my own eyes, a startup that might have had one or two founders suddenly get a dozen employees in a short space of time. We need to tap into that. If there was ever a time we needed more jobs created, it's now, and we should encourage that. Now, tied to this proposal is something that would encourage angel investors. We have angel investor tax incentives. I've got to say, 106 million that's been put aside for them, announced in 2015, brought to life in 2016. We haven't heard much about how those incentives are going. I have heard that they're complex and difficult to use. There's a whole issue around simplifying the incentive scheme, but imagine if we provided a greater incentive for angel investors who teamed up with the accelerators receiving the seed funding support I mentioned earlier to back in some of those firms. We can combine the two funding streams in a meaningful way. Angel investment has contracted. This is a serious issue. Over the last 3 financial years, Startup Oz reports that we've seen contractions in early stage funding, and FinTech Australia has argued that angel investors, or the lack of angel investors, has forced some founders to actively consider moving overseas. That's a big problem. FinTech Australia, to their credit, recommend that government focus on building an educated network of angel investors and seeing what can be done there. And this is definitely an idea worth pursuing. Skills, massive issue. We should be ramping up acquisition, using vocational education way more, relying on trusted partners like TAFE or reputable private providers that we've known have operated for quite some time. TAFE fee-free places in digital and tech. ICT apprenticeships are being used more by government and industry. Funding more PhD students in AI. We need more AI talent in this country. Learning credits used by other countries could potentially be deployed here to reskill the existing workforce. We need to invest in human capital. It's not just right for the here and now, but longer term, we need more skill in the economy, as we know technology will impact on jobs across the years ahead. Employee share ownership programs. Employee share ownership programs are used heavily by startups who are cash starved. The existing reforms that we supported the government on back in 2015, the funding envelope for those has expired. There's suggestions of a parliamentary inquiry into ESOPs. We don't need that. Treasury has already undertaken the review. They've done the consultation. If there are sensible reforms to be done, bring them forward. If government believes that changes need to be done to what's being proposed, get people together, sort this out. We cannot wait any longer for action on this front. Emerging technologies like 5G. I was involved in the House of Reps Communications and Arts, a committee that argued for a 5G innovation fund to help industry get the most out of the rollout of the network. We need to build industry awareness. There is a lot of potential in 5G to change the way business works, but I'm afraid that a lot of industry is unaware of how it does work. And finally, procurement. We cannot have the Australian government lecture Australian business to buy local when the Australian government doesn't do it itself. It was bewildering, staggering to see the Australian government during the COVID crisis hand crucial contracts to overseas tech when they knew local tech firms were capable, had already pre-vetted them, and they ignored them in things like the COVID safe app deployment. This is just wrong. And also we need to ensure that business and government are working closer together, corporate Australia and government, informing each other on the firms that they've successfully used, smaller firms they've successfully used, building the knowledge base and getting more chance for those SMEs to get contracts. And there's got to be work done to the digital marketplace. I constantly have tech players, smaller SME or SMEs in the tech space complain that the digital marketplace is not opening up opportunity. Now look, this is a longer video, so thanks for your patience. These initiatives, some you may agree with, some you may disagree with, others you may want to recommend. Feel free to leave comments, DM me by all means, but I think we agree. We need actionable ideas, and importantly, we all have faith in the tech sector to deliver. We need to mobilize them. We need a smart restart, and we need to get it done now.